Welcome back, design students. In this video I'm going to show you how to quickly and easily texture these floor joists here. And I used the same method to texture the stairs and the stair railing. And I went ahead and textured the door because it was pretty easy, but I can walk you through that and show you what it looks like. Texturing, using this method also made texturing the shed and the bench quite easy, so I'm looking forward to showing you that. So let's select the door and the door arch, and I want to show you the UVs and show you what they look like. You can see here that this is the door, and it was very easy to unwrap, and I've made the front and the back the same, and I just simply used a piece of this wood here for the edges of the door. I was really lucky to find actual texture of a stone arch that fit pretty closely my arch here. And these UVs here are the little polys that are between the stones. So I just went ahead and selected them and just stuck a texture on them. I didn't really care how they looked all that much. For the stairs, this is what those UVs look like. And you can see here, this is the top of the stair. This is the front edge of the top. This is one stair, top and front edge, and I just found a texture of some cobblestones, and I tried to line it up so we had one row of stones on the top and at least a part of one row of stones on the front edge. And here is the front of the stairs, and these are the two sides, and they're just sitting on top of each other. I can show you that by selecting the UV shell and moving them apart, and you can see that they're just sitting on top of each other. So let me turn off my resolution gate, and I think I'm going to lighten up my scene a little bit by turning on my lights. And I'm going to switch to object mode and select that timber because it's not textured yet, and hold down shift and get that one. Then I'm going to get one, well, I guess I'm going to get all of these. Let me detach them. Mesh, separate, because I'm not going to do all of them. I get these two, then I'm probably going to get 4 of these, maybe 5. I'll do 5. And you can see here are the UVs. Now watch this. You're going to love this. I can come to create here. I can do UV here, same menu. Or I can right click and select create here. Either way, you select automatic. Watch what happens. It creates and unwraps all of those very quickly and scales them as well. Now sometimes it scatters them all over the place, and so you just need to kind of move them back into place. And the other downside of doing it that way is that it doesn't really keep them together. So I'm going to switch to UV shell selection mode, and you can also right click and do that here. That's UV shell, that's the UVs, which are kind of like vertices. So I'm going to click this one and this one. And it doesn't look like it did a very good job on those. So I just could not get the projection to work. Automatic projection to work for these two. I don't know why, but you can see what it did for these floor joists. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with these, and we'll do these later. I'll probably have to do these by hand, so I'm going to take them out of the selection. And to make this easier, I'm going to hide everything else. I'm going to select my sky dome light as well so I can keep my lighting, and I'm going to go to display, hide unselected, and I'm just going to work on these. We'll leave those other two for later. Now on looking at this, I don't think I need these top polygons, so I'm going to go ahead and go to face mode, and I'm going to grab the top polygon for each one of these. And delete them. And then I'm going to switch to UV shell mode, and I'm going to grab this UV, I'm going to click on this one, and I can see that these two belong together. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and click on this one. So these three belong together. So I'm going to take my Move tool, and I'm going to move them up to get them out of the way. Then I'm going to do the next one. And you can see that it sort of jumbles them up and puts them on top of each other. So this is the only downside here. You have to spend some time separating them and figuring out which ones are which and which ones belong together. You can see that that's going to belong between those two, so I'm going to go ahead and put that there like so. Same with this skinny one here. It belongs between these two. That belongs between those two because this is the bottom. And you just move on and do the next one. And then the next thing we have to do is line these up and overlap these edges like so. So they're just touching each other and overlapping as if they're one mesh. The reason we want to do that is because we're going to use one Photoshop mesh or one Photoshop picture for each one of these timbers. I'm just going to put a picture of wood on it, and it's going to look like it's just one continuous piece of wood. So that's one. Now I want to line up these ends, but I want to show you something. I don't have to actually touch the gizmo to move the object if I want to. I can just click on that axis because I'm going to move these in the X-axis. Then I can hold down my middle mouse button and move whichever one I select here. Oops, see now that didn't work because I got to lock in the axis. Bit of a pain. Okay, now that I've got those all lined up, I'm going to put them all back into the central square area. I'll move the end textures over here with them. Highlight everything, get the scale tool, and scale them down so they fit in there. And I might spread them out just a little bit more. Now, since we're going to use one texture, one piece of texture for each one of these, for all three of each one of these, in other words, I'm going to overlap these, I need to make sure that they don't need to be flipped. So I'm going to check by clicking this little icon here and check which ones might need to be flipped. They all look like they're oriented properly. But to confirm that, I'm going to turn on the checker map. And I'm going to look at each one by putting it over some of these letters to make sure that it looks right. In other words, the letters should be continuous all the way around. And you can see that this is not right here. This one is, but this one's not. So this one clearly needs to be flipped somehow. So I'm going to open up Transform, find Flip, and I'm going to start by flipping it in the V direction. And see if that fixes it. And it does, but it's just a little bit off. There, that's better. And we'll do the same with this one. That one looks okay except for right here. So I think that has to do with how these are lined up this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to UV selection, like so. Turn off the checker, and I'm going to grab the UVs on the ends of all of these by drawing a marquee selection around them. I'm going to use a scale tool to make sure that they're all flush and lined up. I'm going to scale them in the x-axis only. And that's a little trick for lining up vertices and edges that are not lined up. And I'm not going to get much distortion here by doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure those are all together. And let's turn on the checker map and see if that helped. So I think, I'll switch to UV shell. I think I'm going to try flipping this one. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to flip it in this direction. And then I'm also going to flip it in that direction. And none of that helped. So I'm going to try flipping this one. I know what's going on. Okay, with these, this belongs not there, but there. And then this one belongs here. You can see that that fixed it. Except that this one's still messed up, so let's try flipping it. There you go. Fixed it. So you got to spend some time doing this. I'm not going to make you watch me do this, but you got to spend some time doing this. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do this one now. I'm just going to grab these and move them over here. Take these and move them down so I can use the letters. I'm going to hit F on my keyboard to focus on it. Let's try reshuffling these like I did the last one. Yeah, see, that's correct. And that looks good. So I got 3 of these done. And there you go. Turn off the checker map now. And now we're ready to render this UV template. Remember, you have to be in UV shell mode and select all the UVs and click the camera. Browse to where you want it to be. It's in my project folder. I'm going to name this one Floor Joists UVW and click Save, and then make sure that says JPEG and apply and close.